So it's finally here, Deadpool and Wolverine. I think we've been waiting a very, very long time for this team up. And it did not disappoint. I had an incredible time with this movie. Now this will be a spoiler-free review, don't worry. I'm not going to ruin anything for you. Although you might think that the trailers have already done that. I can assure you, I was worried about the same thing, but they did not. These trailers barely touched on not even a third of what this movie has to offer. Way more cameos, way more surprises. There's a lot more Easter eggs in here than you could possibly imagine. And then I'm worried, is this movie hyped up so much that it can't live up to the hype? Because let's be honest, the marketing on this thing has been ridiculous. And thankfully, it does. It lives up to the hype. It gives me everything I wanted between Deadpool and Wolverine. I mean, Deadpool does what Deadpool does best. He's the merc with the mouth. He just rambles off constantly to the point where Wolverine's just annoyed. And because of which, they're always fighting. They're constantly fighting. But that's the entertainment behind this. There are two personalities that clash. They're both very hurt people, but they take their anger out in different ways. Deadpool's hurt because he's losing his girl. Things have happened to him. And to deal with his pain, he turns it into sarcasm. Wolverine, on the other hand, turns it into anger. So between the two of them, they can't deal with each other, and it's a constant fight throughout the entire movie, which is extraordinarily entertaining. But you know, Deadpool's got to save his world. There's this whole thing going on where his world's going to be annihilated if he doesn't save it, and that's where the whole timeline and TVA thing comes into play. So if you haven't seen Loki, you might want to go back and watch it, because that's where these kind of tie in. If you don't understand the TVA or variants, then this might get a little confusing. So if you watched Loki, you're good. If you didn't, you might want to kind of educate yourself a little bit in that scenario. Other than that, I mean, we get lots of variants of Deadpool and Wolverine and even other X-Men and Marvel characters from years back. So there's a lot of Easter eggs and a lot of cameos that really made this movie fun. But let's be honest, I'm not going to say this was the best written movie in the world. Now, it does the job. It gives you exactly what you want. All the action, all the sarcasm. I laughed the whole movie through. But when it comes to the storyline, it was okay. Could have used a little work. But the heart and soul of this movie that I wanted, Deadpool, Wolverine. I got it. I got tons of cameos. Everything I wanted. Laughter, action, the sarcasm, got it all. Angry, disgruntled, drunk Wolverine, got it. You know, and some of the fight scenes in here were absolutely phenomenal. There's other cameos in here that I wish I could tell you about. Oh my God, they were so good. When you get toward the midway mark of this movie, the people that enter it, I mean, a couple you might have been, all right, I saw that coming. Others, I didn't see coming a mile away. I honestly had no idea this was going to happen. And I'm glad that they kept this stuff out of the trailers, because it was so much fun. The downfall to this movie, though, let me rephrase that. I don't know if it's a downfall. Cassandra Nova she's the villain here. And, I mean, I guess she's a formidable villain, but she doesn't come across to me like a big baddie, like Thanos or something. You know, she didn't have that presence. When she was on screen, I wasn't like overly threatened. You know, like when Thanos hits the screen, you're like, oh crap, that's a big bad guy. This girl shows up on screen and I'm like, okay, I guess that's who we're fighting. And that's about all I got out of that. So whatever. I know I'm not gonna put too much into it, because what I wanted, I got. So let me digress just a minute, because there was another scenario that I had concerns about, and that was how they were going to deal with Wolverine because of the Logan movie. He's essentially dead, and were they going to be able to justify his return? Were they going to disrespect that movie in any way? Yes to both parts. They brought him back. They explained the whole thing. Did they disrespect the Logan movie? Yes and no. It's a very self-aware movie, as all Deadpool movies are. They played into that Logan scenario. Deadpool made fun of him. They did some things that both respected and disrespected. So I think they handled it as best they could. Now, that being said, I will admit that there is a lot packed into this movie. Just over 2 hours, 2 hours, 7 minutes, I think is the official runtime. And they pack it in tight. There is a lot going on from the very beginning. And if you blink for even a second, you've missed quite a bit. So whether you want to say that's a good thing or a bad thing, I'm not sure. That's up to debate. But I think that at least kept the action moving. It's a very, very fast-paced movie. Like, it is lightning fast. And some may find that to be a little discouraging, because I know a lot of people want a good story build-up. Well, this story builds, but it builds fast. I mean, we go into what Deadpool was and wants to be to what he now has to be, and the same with Wolverine. But we're jumping right into that from the opening credits. So don't think this is something that's going to bore you from the first act. It won't. So is it worth your time? Is it worth the hype? Absolutely. I had a great time with it. My wife, on the other hand, she wasn't a big fan. She liked the other two Deadpools better, but I think it's more of us wanting that comic book cameos and the Easter eggs and that team up between Deadpool and Wolverine. That's what we want. And we want to see Wolverine in his full comic suit. That's what this movie's about. Just fan service. There is a ton of fan service in this movie. And essentially, I'm going to consider it cinematic junk food. That's the best thing you can call this. Cinematic junk food. You know it's not the best for you. It's probably brain rot, but it's good brain rot, and I absolutely loved it. Let me know what your thoughts are of Deadpool and Wolverine. Leave them down in the comments, but don't spoil too much for everyone else. Please hit that like button and subscribe button on your way out, and I'll see you at the concession stands.